All right, I'm going to next pass it on to Delisa and Monica. Delisa is our manager of data and evaluation, and Monica is our senior data analyst. They are going to be presenting, giving us a review of the last year of our data. I love the title of their presentation, Analytics from Home. Delisa and Monica, it's all you.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Analytics from Home data presentation. Next slide. In line with our summit theme, Celebrating You, this video clip represents how we would really like to celebrate and honor you, parade style. This is a snippet from a Tableau conference Monica and I attended in New Orleans a few years back. They gave us a Mardi Gras style parade, and today we give that to you, virtual style. Last year, the pandemic was still new and it required much flexibility in adapting from all of you. Well, you endured, and that is to be celebrated. So cheers to you. Let's play the video. Well, I hope you felt that and that got you dancing a little bit and excited. So data has been front and center stage. Over the past year, it has become very apparent. Data has been the key to our freedom, from COVID numbers going down to vaccination rates going up. Data has been needed for things to get back to normal. The power of data works the same within this home visiting network. I'm not just talking about numbers, but the qualitative data as well. So the stories and testimonies we hear from frontline staff, supervisors, and clients is as equally important. Our data presentation will highlight many of the successes of the year and include some quotes of feedback we received from your agencies. Next slide. Now let's get into the data. Since the pandemic, we see a steady decline in prenatal enrollments. This is due to many of the partner outreach sites in which many of our clients come from being closed, and also due to the stay-at-home orders. Even though outreach staff have not been able to go out in the field as usual, they have been flexible, taking on different duties and contributing to the program in a different way, such as tracking resources, delivering meals to families, diaper distributions, and assisting at food pantries. Despite a decline in prenatal enrollments, there are a few sites who have been able to maintain their enrollment rate or increase it. Antelope Valley Partners for Health in particular increased their prenatal enrollments by 25%. That's huge. And this can be attributed to more use of social media. They do text blasts, virtual baby showers, giving program flyers at food pantries, and most importantly is reestablishing those connections with those outreach sites that are starting to reopen. Spirit Family Services as well, they significantly increased their prenatal enrollments, and families in good health are able to maintain a high rate of enrollment even from the previous year. So kudos to you all. Next slide. Let's take a look at postpartum enrollment, starting with welcome baby enrollments at the hospital. And keep in mind, we haven't completed this fiscal year yet, so there's still time for enrollments to go up. And based on projections, we anticipate enrollments to be about the same as last year. Some hospitals had to shift from enrolling clients virtually and to enrolling clients virtually, and that did slow down enrollments for some sites. However, there are many hospitals who saw increases in their enrollment rate, and particularly 2 hospitals, we saw an increase in enrollment count and the enrollment rate, and that's Miller Children's Hospital and California Hospital Medical Center, so kudos. Next slide. So how are we doing with enrollments for home visitation? We also see a decrease overall for enrollments, And this can be attributed to the outreach sites being closed, as I stated earlier, and to the stay-at-home orders. In spite of that, you see the blue bar shows an increase in external outreach referrals from the previous year. So we see the most outreach referrals ever despite the pandemic. And we also want to highlight two sites that have been able to increase their postpartum enrollment counts, and that's Child Care Resource Center and El Nido Family Center. So kudos. And now I'll turn it over to Monica.
Thank you, Delisa. So now I'm going to walk through the client's journey from giving birth at a Welcome Baby hospital, enrolling in Welcome Baby and receiving a risk assessment screening, and then being referred to a postpartum program. So this client pathway is for fiscal year 2021 through May of this year. So we start off with the hospital census numbers of moms who gave birth at our partner hospitals across LA County and were eligible for services. So this number was just over 26,800. And then of that number of moms who were available to be approached at the hospital, 82% of them were actually then approached by Welcome Baby staff or the hospital liaison or HL. So the HLs then introduce Welcome Baby to see if mom is interested in the benefits of the program. And if mom is interested, she will enroll there at the hospital. So of moms who were approached, 67% then enrolled. During the hospital visit, the HL gets to know the family's needs, and based on these needs and program capacity, mom will be referred to the program that best fits. So of those who enroll at the hospital, 95% were referred to a postpartum program, and the majority were referred to Welcome Baby. And then around 4% or 600 families or so were referred to the more intensive home visitation programs, HFA or PAT. And I'll just add for each of these metrics, the overall approach rate, enrollment rate, and referral rate, all of these have increased from last fiscal year. So great work. Next slide. So dependent upon capacity and the number of referrals from Welcome Baby hospitals, the county-funded PAT and HFA agencies are also able to do outreach in the community to enroll more families. So this additional referral pathway can reach families that may not have received services otherwise. In this fiscal year, there have been over 750 prenatal and postpartum outreach referrals that resulted in enrollment. And as you'll see on this map, there were a number of enrollments in every SPA, and the greatest number of outreach enrollments were in SPA 4. And we just want to acknowledge, again, all of the agencies for coming up with creative outreach methods during the pandemic. Next slide. So now to paint a better picture of the moms that we serve, I also want to share some demographic information. So to look at the age of mom at time of enrollment, about half of the moms enrolled are 25 to 34 years old, 21% are 20 to 24 years old, and then another 20% are 35 and up. Next slide. To highlight the top 4 race ethnicities in our client population, 69% of moms are Latinx, 9% are African American, 6% are Caucasian, and 5% are Asian. And another metric to spotlight from this fiscal year is that those HFA and PAT outreach referrals saw a notable increase in the percentage of Black or African American clients enrolled. Next slide. So to highlight the top languages that clients stated they prefer for services, about 3/4 of clients prefer services in English, and a little less than 1/4 of clients prefer services in Spanish. Next slide. So now we're going to move into talking about program impact. So as a network this fiscal year, there have been over 14,000 community referrals that clients accessed. And this number represents referrals in which the client had a successful linkage and actually received those services. So the top referral categories include charitable services, so furniture, clothing, baby supplies, lactation support, food needs, parent group education support, which includes things like virtual parent support groups, and then healthcare, which includes dental, health insurance, postpartum and prenatal care, mental health, and financial assistance. Now I'm going to pass it back to Delisa, who will talk more about program impact.
Thank you, Monica. So now we're going to get into some data about family and child screeners. As you can see, our programs continue to do an excellent job with screening for postpartum depression. Early screening is important for the client and baby's health because client can get the needed care early on that will impact their caregiving skills and livelihood. Next slide. We wanted to look at the impact of mental health referrals during the pandemic. So we compared the timeframes of 12 months before the pandemic to the first 12 months during the pandemic. For Welcome Baby, it appeared to be more of a need for mental health referrals, as indicated by a 35% increase in mental health referrals during the pandemic. For home visitation, there was a slight decrease, but this could be a result of these clients being high risk, and referrals for mental health are more common for this population anyway, and they're already receiving mental health services. Next slide. The next screener is for assessing for developmental delays using the Ages and Stages questionnaire. Our agencies continue to screen at a high rate for developmental delays, especially compared to the state and national rates. Early screening for developmental delays means clients are more likely to get the resources they need for their child to mitigate the delays and prevent delays from getting worse. Essentially, children have a better chance to thrive. Next slide. We also looked at the referrals for developmental delays or concerns before and during the pandemic. Though screening is taking place at high rates, referrals for developmental concerns declined during the pandemic. So about a 50% decline for Welcome Baby and about a 28% decline for home visitation. This does need to be explored further, but some contributing factors could be due to the difficulty in assessing for developmental delays virtually, especially if visits are being done over the phone, because that observation component is missing. Also, there may be a lack of resources in the community to meet these needs. So for example, maybe there aren't enough early intervention services. We've heard also that there could be long wait lists for these services. So as stated before, this needs to be explored further beyond speculation. Next slide. Another family screener that our programs use to assess for family well-being is the life skills progression tool. So we looked at the health literacy component of this tool. And just for some context, health literacy is defined by the degree to which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. Health literacy affects the ability to navigate the healthcare system and engage in self-care, along with some other factors. And we know that low healthcare literacy is a source of disparities and is associated with poor health outcomes. Health literacy in this context was measured using the LSP tool, which measures change that occurs in families receiving home visiting services, specifically at-risk populations. And I want to note that the tool is a validated tool to measure parents' health literacy skills. Next slide. So there are a few subscales of the LSP that make up the health literacy category, and they are listed on the left. We looked at 2 different time points for Welcome Baby and home visitation. For Welcome Baby, we compared the baseline LSP with the 9-month visit, and for home visitation, we compared the baseline LSP with the 12-month visit. The LSP literature states that scores under 4 represent inadequate health literacy. The top chart looks at data for all clients. So we see for both Welcome Baby and home visitation, there was a statistically significant difference, so an improvement in health literacy, even though overall for Welcome Baby, the average score at baseline was adequate. Even though home visitation, which was a smaller sample size, did not reach an adequate health literacy score, there was still improvement. So that is to be noted. Keep in mind also that for the home visiting program, clients are higher risk and the program is longer. So there is more time to improve in this area before the client is done with the program. For the lower chart, it's looking at the same data, but only for clients that scored as inadequate, so under 4 at baseline for health literacy. Once again, for welcome baby and home visitation, there was a significant improvement in health literacy. So these results are a great display of the impact of our programs on clients, and that is a win. And I'd like to thank MCHA for conducting this analysis. Next slide. Now we will shift gears and talk more about client visits. The Welcome Baby program offers all clients an RN visit that occurs between 72 hours postpartum and up to 2 weeks postpartum. This can be viewed as a preventative visit for negative health consequences and as a proactive visit to address and educate on early medical concerns. During the visit, the mom and the baby's health is assessed, breastfeeding support is provided, and needed resources are also provided. We see an increase in this visit from year to year. And this year, there were CQI projects aimed to increase retention of clients from the hospital visit to the RN visit. The sites were open to implementing different strategies, and some even decided to exceed their target number of expected RN visits. And the data shows the success and the result of that. So good work. Next slide. Another key visit is the 6-week postpartum visit that clients have with their doctor. This is part of the HEDIS measures, which is a tool used by 90% of America's health plans to measure performance on important dimensions of care and service. During this visit, doctors check how the patient is healing, they check for infections, and they screen for depression. Essentially, this visit is important for prevention and identifying immediate health risks. Our staff remind clients of this visit and its importance, as well as regularly check in on the status of attending the visit. And I believe those efforts contribute to our programs having a higher rate of clients attending this visit compared to clients in the health plans that are listed on the chart. This is especially notable during the pandemic when there was resistance about going to hospitals and to doctors' offices. And listed are some sites in which over 90% of their clients reported attending the visit. And that's Miller Children's Hospital, Providence Little Company of Mary, and Child Care Resource Center. So congratulations. Now I'll turn it back over to Monica, who will review more data and close out this presentation.
Thank you, Delisa. So we've talked about the impact of home visits, and now let's round it all out by looking at the grand total home visits this fiscal year. So there have been over 70,000 home visits completed by Welcome Baby, HFA, and PAT this fiscal year thus far. We still have a little bit of time left too. And another noteworthy metric, Q3 of this fiscal year had the highest number of completed visits in any quarter to date. Next slide. So this high visit completion rate coincided with the high rates of virtual visits. On average, 70 to 80% of these visits were done using video chat platforms. And during last year's summit, we highlighted the transition from in-person to virtual visits, but this year, you all became experts at conducting these home visits via video chat. And so these are just a handful of quotes from sites that demonstrate how you all have been working with the virtual platform. Clients have continued their visits, even ones who are currently out of the country, and staff have accommodated families with school-aged children, making calls into the evening. And we just want to recognize staff flexibility and creativity in using these new engagement techniques and providing that virtual support to families during such a challenging time. Next slide. Okay, so let's look at this year's graduations. So for Welcome Baby, we see continued increase in program completion counts this fiscal year for both Welcome Baby Full, which is the 9-month program, and for Welcome Baby Light, the 2-month program. And to highlight sites with top completion rates this fiscal year, great job to St. Francis, Valley Presbyterian, and St. Mary Medical Center. Next slide. So now we look at HFA and PAT graduation differently. These are long-term programs, so retention is a key focus. With that said, there were 109 graduations from HFA and PAT this fiscal year, and a special shout out to sites that found unique ways to honor program completion, including drive-by graduation celebrations for families. And then to speak more to retention, there are also 472 families who are actively enrolled and who have been in the program for 2 or more years. And this continued connection is especially impressive this year, of course, when families may have been hesitant to receive the virtual visits. Next slide. And then lastly, we want to highlight a couple of the results from the Welcome Baby client survey this fiscal year. So this first one, when asked to rank the statement, "My home visitor helped me build confidence as a parent," clients rated an average of 4.8 out of 5. And then this next one, when asked to rank the statement, "Virtual home visiting met all of my needs and expectations," clients again rated an average of 4.8 out of 5. And this again really demonstrates that despite the constant change this past year, our network has continued to provide invaluable services for families. Next slide. And then before closing out, we just want to acknowledge all the folks who helped us put together this presentation via brainstorming sessions, data analysis, and designing this presentation. And then last but not least, we want to acknowledge you all for doing this work and providing us with this data to show that home visiting works. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Delisa and Monica. I know every year we look forward to seeing this data. I know throughout the year we can see our own sites data, but it's always nice to see the collective impact that this network has on the larger community. So a big thank you to the both of you for, again, presenting this information for the last fiscal year. It is another Mentimeter time, so I'm going to pass it on to Martha.
All right. It looks like our scroll is working too, so let's hope it works for the next one. You should be able to keep, let's see, the same code. So you should just have been prompted on your browser for a new question. New question, what is the greatest benefit of home visiting? And I'm using our hashtag home visiting works. What is the greatest benefit? And behind you, behind the slide, you see the Miller's Welcome Baby program, which is a beautiful picture that we wanted to highlight. All right, starting to come in now. This is great. Personalized care, connection, support, creating community. Awesome. Healthy family is the light bulb moment moms have. This is great. Guidance and support. Thank you so much. I know there are so many benefits to home visiting, so this is only a small fraction and you only had so many characters that you could answer this question in, but it's really great to see what you think the best benefits are and what you see the families getting the most benefit from. This is really great.
We can leave this on the screen. And Vanessa, can I ask you to pull 2 more raffles? Let's find out who our 2 next winners are before we go on to our keynote.
Of course. Our next winner for this raffle is Veronica Rosales from Child and Family Guidance Center.
Nice. Congratulations, Veronica.
Let's see who our next winner is. Our next winner is Madeline Hernandez from El Nido Family Centers.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Vanessa. Congratulations to both our winners. Again, please make sure that someone from the LABBN team grabs your email addresses so we can email you out those electronic gift cards.